Pastor Daniel, we are anticipating a fantastic time at our 15th session of the Caribbean Union Conference. Could you tell us some of the highlights of the past 5 years?
Over the past 5 years, the Caribbean Union, in terms of its strategic initiative, endeavored not only to grow the church in terms of baptisms and membership growth, but we had a focus on education and another in particular on financial growth of the church. CURF, the Caribbean Union Revolving Fund, was one of our major achievements during this quinquennium. We launched that in 2007, and today we can just praise God for the way it has grown. Evangelism, it was reported today to me that 27,414 persons, new converts, were baptized over the quinquennium. That is a tremendous achievement. Education-wise, I think if you go over to St. Vincent, you will see at this point in time a new structure, virtually new structure, because the Mountain View Academy, from where it was a year ago, it's a tremendous blessing as to what has happened in the transformation of that. Our youth, they have done so much. Not only have we seen them achieve their potential in terms of evangelism, but some have done some amazing things during this quinquennium. Those who have gone overseas on mission trips, we are just proud of them. Those who have worked locally, what can we say? It's amazing what God has done through our young people this year. And you, Dr. Dottin, you know exactly as the youth director of our union, you have been, you have done so much in terms of enabling, mentoring for these young persons, just what it means to love God and serve humanity. And for that we are grateful.
Thank you so much. We want to go to another issue, and that is the issue of the church in times of crisis. Dr. Daniel, I read recently where one theologian said, and I want to quote him, "The church in this postmodern society that hopes to survive must be a church that proves relevant in a crisis." We have heard about ADRA on our community programs. Tell us some more about that.
The Adventist Development and Relief Agency, the acronym ADRA, is responsible for two main responsibilities. One, in terms of responding to disasters when they occur, but the major focus of ADRA is about development. We respond to disasters, but we are about development. And if you were to take a journey into some of our territories where ADRA has come together with other agencies for development. We had a business project over there in Suriname, funded by ADRA. There are other small business enterprises that they are endeavoring to spearhead, some in the interior of Guyana. Then if you go international in terms of what ADRA does, let me just come back locally, because ADRA had a project in Dominica. Dominica, the project in Dominica, well, two projects as a matter of fact in Dominica. One was the bakery. The bakery was established there to provide opportunities, entrepreneurial opportunities for individuals. And also the WC project, WC, we know exactly, the waste management project there in Dominica, to provide facilities for a community that did not have. You would be surprised that in this day and age, there are communities without dealing with how they dispose of some certain waste, and that occurred there in Dominica. But if you go wider field, you'll realize that ADRA is engaged in all kinds of agricultural, small business enterprises, enabling individuals to become self-sufficient. And they did some of that in Suriname and Ghana in terms of the literacy program. Individuals who cannot read, you teach them how to read. And in the process of them being able to read, they were able to launch forth and do many, many things on their own.
Tell us about Haiti, just a few moments.
Oh, well, last year when that 7.0 magnitude earthquake struck Haiti, we know exactly the extent of the devastation. ADRA and the Caribbean Union came together, and we were able to raise in cash over $500,000 which were already sent over to Haiti. And in addition to that, ADRA partnering with other relief agencies, were able to send lots of foodstuff and other things over to Haiti.
So our work in Haiti continues?
Yeah, the work is ongoing because I got a report just this mid-year from the president of the Haitian Union indicating that there's still a lot of work left to be done. He himself is still living in a tent. Well, one would have thought that, you know, a whole year has gone by and that he would have been able to return to his own home. But he says, in terms of the spirit of sacrifice, he said he cannot go to a home when so many of his members are still living in tents. So he has preferred, even though the organization would have been willing to assist him, he said, if you have any assistance to give it to the members. I will prefer to live in a tent.
Dr. Daniel, are you suggesting here that that is a model of servant leadership?
Oh, definitely so. I mean, he's leading from the front. He's simply saying exactly, I'm here to serve my people. And until they are secure and safe, I will prefer to live under the same conditions as they are living.
Finally, the role of the church in the community. Would you say, Dr. Daniel, that we have seen an increase in membership response? Let's take it at the grassroots level in terms of members getting a clearer vision of how they should respond to the cries of the community. Because we've heard about the Lifestyle Center in Grenada, the Love Until Foundation in Love Until, just to mention a few. Yeah, do you think there's an increase in membership response?
Yes, more and more persons are coming to realize that the Christian life is not about isolating myself, that I'm to follow Jesus Christ into the world, going where he went, serving the needs of the dispossessed individuals in our communities. And so we realized that for the Love Until Foundation, they have been doing a tremendous job in terms of reaching out. Then you have the Ready Center over in Matura. They are also reaching out to persons who are disadvantaged. We have the Prison Ministry Association here in Trinidad in terms of what they do. But you and your Friends Forever activities, and you go to talk about the Casa de Corazon and other entities of such like are really, you know, at the forefront, addressing people's needs, meeting the community where they are hurting, and trying to bring relief to them. That's what true mission, true missionary, and true Christianity is all about.
Could we take a little shot at prophecy now? We're seeing amazing developments in the Middle East. We're seeing, you know, an unprecedented level of disasters in the world. What do you think this means for the church and its mission in these last days?
Well, you know, there's some persons look at what is happening and skeptically say, well, you know, they have been happening all the time, but we realize exactly these are happening with great intensity. Disasters of one kind or another, governments which we thought would never have crumbled are crumbling all around us. And the Bible tells us exactly that when we see these things beginning to happen, that we ought to look up and take note, because something significant is about to happen. And not only the church, but the world itself is realizing. I'm hearing politicians speaking as if they were preachers, you know, interpreting some of the everyday events along the lines of the parousia about to occur. Now, there are some who have gone to the extreme in terms of predicting things that have never come to pass. And there is where we need to be very careful that we do not make predictions that cannot be supported by Scripture. There are some who look at these things that are happening and have begun to set dates. And that in itself is a dangerous thing for us, because Christ has already warned us that we ought not to do that. But all in all, they say to us and to the world that we need to get closer to our brothers and sisters in our community and get them ready for Christ.
Dr. Daniel, in 1 minute, please tell us about your the future plans for the Caribbean Union Conference?
We established our vision through our 8 strategic initiatives during the past quinquennium, and we have achieved quite a number of those objectives. But when it comes to the area of communication, we realize exactly so many things are happening around us. How well are we utilizing all of the tools of communication to get the message across and reach people? Let's just think about how we can do that efficiently and effectively in terms of education. One of our great concerns as we move to the future is the disparity in tertiary level education between male and female. You go around and you wonder exactly why our men are not moving on to higher levels of the education. So that will have to be addressed because it has implications for family life. The other day we saw this report in the newspaper where some woman was abused and that she was set on fire. And you wonder exactly what was the conflict or contest in the mind of what is going on in the mind of the individual who would have done that to another human being. And we begin to realize exactly that education needs to address some of these issues.
We've had 3 of those incidents in about a 2-month period.
3. Well, you know, it goes back to, well, how do we communicate with other persons who probably might maybe be more educated than we are? And so the only response we can have when we are embarrassed in terms of saving face and doing the macho thing is to strike out in violence. So we believe that education can solve some of those problems. In addition to, as an individual is educated, he or she improves their self-worth and their self-concept and thus be able to communicate better. And the church is doing all that it can to do that. Now we have our adult education program. We have our tertiary level education program in terms of USC. And we are encouraging men wherever they are. Don't be satisfied that you just get to high school, or some have dropped out of high school, and you wonder exactly. Now let me just talk about something that has happened recently. In the South Leeward Mission, they had this special program in terms of Black Boys Can, and the intent of that was to see how can we rescue all of these young men who are sitting on the block or standing on the block. And I think it's a great motivator, because the government has great praise for the church in terms of reaching out in this particular area of need. And if you look across our Caribbean community, you will realize exactly that something needs to be done in terms of turning things around so that the kind of violence that occurs will be lessened, and we have a role to play in terms of doing that.
And when you say South Leeward Mission, we talk about Antigua?
We talk about Antigua, St. Kitts, Montserrat, Nevis. So Antigua, Barbuda, St. Kitts, Nevis, Montserrat. That entity that just came into being. But they already made some great strides. Yeah, they are responding to their community in meaningful ways.
Well, we are convinced, Dr. Daniel, that the church is moving on in the Caribbean Union, and we want to wish you all the best.
Well,
and may God bless you.
Thank you very much,
God
Dr.
bless
Dottin.
you.
God bless you
God
too.
bless you.
God bless you too. God bless you too.